ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. So we were looking at our concept of success. What is success in life? And what we understood is, if we look upon oneself as a person endowed with desires, and if we judge ourselves as a success or failure based on whether our desires are fulfilled or not, then nobody can be really successful, because all of us have more unfulfilled desires than fulfilled desires. Whether currently you look at it, whether what happened in the past you think about it, or even what may happen in future. So if you look upon yourself as a success or a failure based on fulfillment of your desires, that is only going to lead to sorrow. Our way of looking at things is different, because we have to understand that we are limited in terms of our knowledge, our power, and also our ability. We can put in effort, no doubt about that, but there are too many hidden variables. So we have to understand the fact that I am not totally responsible for the results of my action. I am only the author of the action which I am doing, because I can do, I need not do, I can do differently. There I have a choice, I have freedom, and I have the qualification to do action. But once the action is done, the results are based on more than just my effort. So now I should be able to accept the results as they come, which I am not able to do normally. Then there are problems. I am not able to accept the results as they come. That is because I take myself as the author of the results of my action also. I take responsibility for the results of my action. This is a problem. And I also think if the results are not in keeping with my expectation, I am a failure. Now that particular attitude has to be changed. This applies to everybody. It applies to even children can understand this. Teenagers can understand this. Don't think that a particular exam alone is everything, or a particular college or a particular degree is everything, or even a particular job after your college. I studied totally something different, and now in fact I am teaching Vedanta mainly. So you can understand that what one wants to be, one can become, but do not think that a particular fulfillment of a desire alone is everything for you. your vision will totally change as you grow, not just physically but emotionally, and as a person one has to grow, and as you grow many things will change, so you have to take things as they come. So what is our plan then, our way of life? If you say Bhagavad Gita has a plan for all of us, it is to manage one's desires. If you are able to successfully manage your desires, then you are successful, not about fulfillment. Understand that. And managing one's desire is what we call yoga. Yoga is not just about doing some asana or physical exercise. That is only one part of it, or one part of a system called Ashtanga Yoga. But yoga as a word has a wider meaning. Okay. So any activity we do to grow, okay, self growth, all of that can be called yoga. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan talks about karma yoga. Okay. So karma yoga is basically your attitude towards karma, because it is also called buddhi yoga by Bhagavan. So it is an attitude of yoga which is going to make you successful. Your capacity to manage your desires will make you a yogi. And since now desires or fulfillment of desires are not the basis for my self-judgment, my whole life and my whole concept of failure and success has to change. Okay, so we have to understand based on this new vision, which is the vision of Bhagavad Gita. So as I already told you, there are too many hidden variables. Desiring itself is not a problem, that is a given. Bhagavan says he himself is manifest as desires in you, which are not opposing dharma. So such desires are actually a privilege, a power, Ichha Shakti. Desires are natural. If desire is there, it is natural to take effort also to fulfill them, nothing wrong there. But how do we take the outcome? That is where we have to work. So here, our response to results of action is what makes you a yogi or a bhogi. Okay. So desires are a privilege and you can fulfill them. And even the process of fulfilling a desire can be self-satisfying. The way you are expressing yourself, that itself is something satisfying. The results are only one part of who we are or what we set out to do. So once we understand that we have choice only over our action, this is what Bhagavan says as karmani eva adhikaraha te. You have choice only over your action, and you leave the results to the laws of Bhagavan. Bhagavan only is manifest as the laws, whether it is law of karma or all other laws. And the laws will take care of the results of action. Once you appreciate this fact, then you can have a certain equanimity with reference to the results of the action. That is what Bhagavan wants you to have, this change of attitude, this change in the way you look at yourself and your desires. So once we recognize this fact that we have choice only with reference to action and not with reference to the results, then you understand that you are not the author of the results of action. That is only Bhagavan. Bhagavan alone is the karma phala data, we say, the giver of results of action. Okay, just because I don't have total control over the results of action, should I then not do anything? Can I become a sannyasi? Can I just sit Shivanen iru in Tamil we say, or Summa iru. Don't do anything. Be calm. In fact, that is the biggest karma. In fact, consciously doing nothing is a very big problem for most people. Many people cannot just sit and be with themselves. So your very nature will not allow you to be like that. Therefore, do not be attached to inaction also. That is mostly otherwise laziness only. Nowadays, all couch potatoes, just flipping through Netflix, all these things, you can while away your time. Of course, some entertainment and all is fine. Nobody is saying that you should not be entertained. But that should not be the only thing you are doing, correct? So this attachment to inaction also is not an option. One has to do what one has to do. What is to be done has to be done, but with this attitude that I have choice over my action, but the results are coming from Bhagavan. Bhagavan is the giver of results of action. And if you have this attitude, you are now doing karma, being established in yoga. Yogastha kuru karmani, Bhagavan says. Being established, remaining steadfast in yoga, you do karma. Then what? You don't have attachment to the results of action. Okay. Of course, still action is done expecting a certain result only, but you are not attached. You don't think that only if I get this, I am going to be happy or I am successful. That attitude is gone because you are not even responsible for that. You are not the author of the results of action. That is the main thing. So if your attitude is like this, then you can be siddhya siddhyo samaha. Means whether it is success or failure, you are able to take it as prasada because it is coming from Bhagavan, correct? This is where the prasada buddhi which is there in our culture has to be now extended to all situation in your life. If you have prasada buddhi towards all your results of action, then you attain samatvam, equanimity. Because if you go to the temple, we are able to accept different objects as prasada with a sense of certain sacredness, correct? Whether you get a ash or some water or some sweet laddu, whatever you get, you take it because it is coming from Bhagavan's altar. You take it with the same attitude, which is what we call prasada buddhi. In fact, prasada means really it means clarity. Certain clarity and equanimity only is called prasada. So your attitude is one of, you are having a certain sacredness is what you are seeing there. Whatever may be the object, your attitude makes it prasada. Like that here, whatever may be the results of action, you take it or you make it into prasada. Then you have evenness of mind, equanimity, that is samatvam. That is what is called yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate, Bhagavan. So everybody has to have this attitude of yoga, but you should not use this as an excuse. That's why first only we said that don't get attached to inaction, or you should not be lacking with your effort. Your effort has to be there. In fact, there is a saying in Sanskritam, Udyamam, Sahasam, Dhairyam, Buddhi, Shakti, Parakramaha, Shadete Yatra Vartante, Devas Tatra Sahaya Kriti. So, Udyamam, Sahasam, Dhairyam. Udyamam means right effort. Sahasam means enthusiasm. Dhairyam is courage. Buddhi also, you have to analyze, you have to do things after proper thought, correct? Then Shakti, Parakramaha is determination. Do not give up also. Even if you feel like you are in a hopeless situation, everybody who watches cricket will know, correct? Sometimes even the last pair, 10th wicket pair can go on and win the game. Even tailenders can win it. So do not give up. Determination. So effort, determination, enthusiasm, thoughtfulness, all these things are very important. In spite of all these things, Bhagavan is the giver of the results. That is the attitude. One has to do things, whatever is to be done, to the best of your abilities, and then should be ready to take the results. This way, if you are, even in your day-to-day life, you will be fulfilled. You will feel successful in whatever you are doing, and you will be, as an individual, a person who is satisfied with oneself, and because of that, in fact, you can even help others. Unless you are self-satisfied and happy with yourself, you are not going to make anybody else happy. Understand that. Everything has to start with oneself, and in fact, in the process, you will also help others definitely. So this yoga of attitude, everybody has to understand, whether you are a student, whether you are a young professional, adult, whoever you are, young person getting into job market, whether you are a college student, whether you are a school student in the high school, all of you can understand this. It is not something which you cannot understand, I hope. So the idea here is you have to be objective to be a yogi. You have to accept certain facts with reference to your desires and the fulfillment of them. And then your whole life becomes a yoga. You are never a loser. Every experience is to learn something. Okay. So that part you have to be very clear. You can learn from every experience. That way you are not a loser ever. You will always become wiser. So this prasada buddhi is the, up to this I think we saw already, but I just wanted to recap, because I think this is one of the most important things one has to understand. If you have a proper understanding of this, it can transform your life. So there is a verse in Bhagavad Gita, prasade sarva dukkhanam hanihi asya upajayate. So here prasada is translated as a tranquil mind, tranquility, equanimity. That prasada buddhi, how does it come? Because of your objectivity, because of the fact that you are appreciating whatever is there as it is. You appreciate certain facts and then have your attitude based on them. Then there cannot be any pain or sorrow for you. Because that knowledge itself, that prasanna chetasaha, the one who has this tranquil mind, this prasada buddhi, in your mind, if this prasanna chetas is there, correct? This knowledge, when it is well established, that will make you equanimous, tranquil, calm, and also satisfied and happy. So this is very important, this prasada buddhi, which we already have in our culture. All you have to do is, with certain understanding, you extend it to all other situations in your life. So continuing, the important thing in our culture is duty. So we are now going to look at duties. One has to do. There is no doubt about that. Inaction is not an option. When one has to do things, what do we do? How do we do? How do we go about doing things, whatever is to be done? And in fact, if you do whatever is to be done in a situation, Bhagavan says that itself is a form of worship. Okay. So in our culture, worship can be very simple. Bhagavan also says in one place, Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati Tadaham Bhaktyupahritam Ashnami Prayatatmanaha. So he says Patram, any leaf, Pushpam, some flower, Phalam, some fruit, or even just water. You can offer me any of these things worshipfully. I will take it. Okay. That is prayer, worship as an action in itself. But we cannot be doing prayer alone the whole day. In fact, there are separate class of people who are supposed to do that. In fact, even about that we'll see later. But most people cannot be doing only prayer the whole day. You have to do other things, whatever is to be done. And if you do that, your swakarma, then actually you are worshipping Bhagavan. That's what Bhagavan says. That itself is worship. So, yataf pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam. So, first, here a vision of Bhagavan Ishvara is again presented. This is in the 18th chapter of Gita. So, he says, from whom everything has come, all the beings, by whom everything is pervaded. Tatam means pervaded. That Bhagavan, who is manifest as everything, how do we worship that Bhagavan now? Swakarmana, by doing one's own duty. Tam abhyarchya, by worshipping that Bhagavan, by doing one's own duty. What do you gain? Siddhim vindati manavaha. That's how you gain siddhi, success. Doing is success for you. The results will come from Bhagavan. Understand that. You do whatever is to be done in a given situation, whatever is your duty, then your life will be beautiful. In fact, that is beauty in life. In fact, you do your duty, that itself is the beauty for you. You can enjoy. If you are able to enjoy your duty, you have attained a certain success in life. All problems are in fact because you are not able to enjoy whatever you think is your duty. There is conflict then. There are problems. The likes and dislikes are conflicting with whatever is to be done. So those are some things now which we will see. So if a person is successful, whom do we call a successful person? We all know that all that is here is Bhagavan. That is our vision. That is our unique vision, in fact, Vedic vision. And from that, what do we understand? So if you are aware of that, in fact, we can understand certain facts and accept things as they are. Bhagavan only is manifest as everything. Bhagavan only is manifest as your own body, mind, sense complex. And since you have a mind and through that only you know, your knowledge is limited. Since you have a physical body and through that only you are doing things, your powers are also limited. And you can only plan and learn so much. Therefore, if you judge yourself based on this on a day-to-day basis, particularly with reference to what desires of yours got fulfilled, then you are going to have a miserable life. So life should not be a matter for judgment on the basis of any one day. Every day certain things may get fulfilled, certain things may not get fulfilled. Certain things are as per your expectations, certain things are not. So every day cannot be a day of judgment. I lead my life with a certain understanding, doing whatever is to be done. And if you are able to enjoy this process of doing one's own duty, then I am successful, I will grow as a person, I become wiser. Because this attitude itself will make you discover yourself, lead you to self-knowledge. Self-growth leads you to self-discovery and knowledge. That is the main thing in our culture. So, to enjoy doing one's duty, one has to have certain understanding. Otherwise, one goes only by one's own likes and dislikes, which is more than most of the time. Let us say, if I just go by my likes and dislikes, most of the time, it is not in keeping with what is to be done. That is the problem, in fact. But if you have a certain understanding, you are now free to do what is to be done. You are free to do the right thing, in fact. That is the real freedom. That is the freedom which is expressed through you. Freedom is not doing whatever one likes. That's not real freedom. Real freedom is you are free enough to do what is to be done, what is right. That is freedom expressed through you. That is real freedom. That is the freedom which will help you to grow. And your desire also is not a problem still. Your desire is an expression of that freedom, that power which is given to you. If you look at it as a privilege, it will not bind you. And as a privilege, I have the freedom to fulfill my desire in keeping with dharma. If you look at it like that, my life becomes a life of yoga. I grow as a person. And such a person can then be compassionate, can be understanding of others. You don't have to judge everybody. Everybody has their own something. They have their own backgrounds. They have had a certain childhood. They are leading their life. You don't have to be judgmental about anybody. If you can help somebody, we can help. If you want to avoid some people, that is also okay. Everybody, you don't have to go and help everybody, or you don't have to be in touch with everybody. Certain people you can avoid also, that is fine. But whomever you have to interact with, you are related to, because all of us are related anyway. We can accept them based on a certain understanding, without judgment. Be compassionate, try to understand the other person's problems. We can be sympathetic because we are all endowed with empathy also. Empathy is a great emotion. Bhagavan only is manifest as empathy also. The ability to understand the pain of others, the problems of others, is what we call as empathy. And empathy we should not lose. That's a great thing to have. So you grow as a person with all this understanding, and then you are a successful person. You can be called a successful person because you are able to manage your desires and do what is to be done in any particular situation. Whatever is right, you are free enough to do that because you are able to manage your desires, your likes and dislikes, and you are successful. Siddhim Vindati, you gain success. So in the Vedic vision, if you see, there are only duties. In fact, nowadays everybody is talking about rights. If everybody only wants to grab their rights, there will only be riots. That is what is happening in many places. Everybody wants to grab. Grabbing mentality will only lead to conflicts. Our vision is totally different. If you are a Vaidika, you have no rights, in fact, only duties. Duties towards so many different things, in fact, not just only those who are related to you. We'll see that. So if I am a child, as a son or a daughter, I have a duty towards my parents. And my parents also have duty towards me as a child. If both of you perform your duties, you get your rights also. So if I perform my duty as a son or a daughter, my parents will get their rights. Similarly, if they perform their duties as a parent, you will get your rights. If a husband performs his duty towards his wife, the wife will get her rights. If she performs her duty, the husband also will get his rights. You can extend it to the country also, the state. If the state performs its duties, the citizens will get their rights. And if the citizens perform their duty, the state also will get whatever its rights. So the emphasis is always on duties in our culture. In fact, that is why in Indian English, the going to a job also is called duty. I think that is somewhat peculiar to Indian English. I am going to duty, I am joining duty, I am on duty. So whatever is to be done by you, you look upon that as a duty and you have to do it to the best of your ability. And if everybody does their duties, everybody gets their rights also. That is the idea here. So you don't emphasize on rights, we emphasize only on duties. And why should we do our duty? And what is the framework in which I decide what is my duty? That is what we are trying to understand now. How do I get to know what is my duty? To understand that, first we have to understand everything is mutually dependent. This whole world, in fact, in the Upanishad, this is called Madhu. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, this is called as Madhu. This mutual dependence. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan talks, Devan bhavayatanena te deva bhavayantuvaha parasparam bhavayantaha shreyah paramavapsyatha. So he says even the devas are dependent on you because you have to give them offerings. You pray to them, you offer to them. They depend on that. And you depend on the devas because their blessings only is going to give you rains, let us say. All these things are really acts of God, even in English they say, even in a contract. So you want your larger environment to be favorable to you, then only you can have a peaceful life. So you are dependent on the devatas for that, and devatas are dependent on you. So you have to do your duty towards the devatas. So duty is not only with reference to other human beings, it is even with reference to the devatas. That is our cosmic ecology, you can say. Everything is mutually dependent. Everything is symbiotic. Life is symbiotic. It's simply a network of mutual dependence because we are all born related to so many things in the world. Even the solar system is so many things it is dependent on, correct? Solar system, everything is interrelated. The gravitational force is keeping everything in a certain orbit. So planets are remaining in their orbits around the sun, and that our galaxy itself is again going around, they say, the Milky Way galaxy. And our solar system is again within this Milky Way galaxy. It is going, the entire solar system itself is going in a certain orbit. So everything is held together in this world, depending on each other, starting from a cell or a nucleus to cosmic level. You can go from atomic level to cosmic level. Everything is interdependent, interrelated. So this is something we have to understand. So as an individual, I am not alone on this planet. Even before I am born, in fact, people are relating to you. They are expecting, if this child is born, then I become a mama, I become a grandmother, grandfather. Like this, people are already talking about even an unborn child. Even before one is born, you are related to people. They are talking about their relationship with you. They are expecting. So once if I am dependent with reference to others and I am related to others, then my behavior towards them has to be looked at. How do I behave with others? Because they depend on me, I depend on them. This fact has to be kept in mind when I am interacting with others. And my interaction is not totally driven only by instincts. Understand that. If everybody behaves only by instinct, you don't have any free will. See, animals are largely instinctual. Their free will is either non-existent or very limited, we can say. They can be programmed. But human being is not like that. Human beings are endowed with a certain faculty of choice. And since we have a free will and the ability to choose, we have to choose our behavior, keeping in mind that all of us are interdependent and related. So in this, our behavior has to be guided by certain values. A matrix of norms have to be there. We cannot avoid that. Why? Because we will see that unless there are values and a matrix of norms, there will be only chaos in the society. There cannot be any order, any peace. So it is required, if two people have to relate with each other, then it has to be based on certain norms that cannot be avoided. And it has to be universal also. This matrix of norms must be universal. Otherwise, your norms are different, other person's norms are different, means then both of you again may clash. In India, you think keeping left is right on the road. Now, if you think the same thing in US, then you will be caught by a police. You will be fined. You cannot argue in US saying that I thought only keeping left is right. In US, keeping right is right on the road. You have to drive on the right side. In India, we drive on the left side. Like that, unless the norms are same and universally understood, again there will be conflicts. But Bhagavan is manifest even as these norms, the Samanya Dharma we say, the universal values, universal matrix of norms is known to everybody. We are all born with that knowledge, we have to say. That is what we call conscience. It is there. And that universal values are known to everybody, cannot be denied by anyone. It need not be taught. It is like, see, even in the Srishti, in the creation in general, so many things are not taught, even for animals, let us say. For example, you take a tortoise. In Chennai beaches, in fact, when we were in school, this olive ridley turtles in certain places, they come and lay their eggs. So we used to go to preserve and make sure that these young turtles, because the turtle, what it does is, it comes, it will dig a pit, lay a lot of eggs, close it and go away. It doesn't do anything much. Then it is the it is the responsibility of the whatever the hatchling, when it comes out, how does it know that it has to go to the sea? But it goes. In fact, that is the only time a turtle really sprints, I think. Otherwise, all these predators will come. Predators are also waiting to feast on these hatchlings. So they have to run for their very life. And if somebody has to teach them to go towards the sea, none of them will survive, in fact. And they need not be taught really, they know. Every monkey knows that if it leaves its mother, if it loosens its grip on its mother, it will fall down and die. You don't have to teach the monkey about gravity. It knows that instinctively. Like that, universal value, Samanya Dharma, we call it, is known to everybody. It need not be taught. And our concept of duty also is based on both the Samanya Dharma and Vishesha Dharma. We'll see that later. Contextual Dharma also is there, but largely it has to be first based on the universal values. So, since our concept of duty is based on this universal values, universal matrix of norms, this is also universal. It is applicable to all societies. And this concept of this duty in our Vedic society is based on the vision of the Veda about yourself and how a human being has to evolve, human being's destiny. We will see that also. There is a well-planned way of life to help you grow and discover yourself. So that is the vision based on which we have this concept of duty. And here you have to exercise your free will also, because you have to assimilate these values, and based on that you have to arrive at your duties, and then develop a certain attitude so that you can do your duty and grow in the process, and finally discover yourself also. That you have to discover yourself as a whole complete person. That is the goal of life, and for that only we have these duties. So by doing your duty, you grow, you gain a certain emotional growth, inner growth we say. So according to the Veda, you are already the complete person. You are already full, whole. You do not lack anything. But the only problem is you do not know this properly. Ignorance is the problem. And so the Vedic way of life is designed for you to discover this fullness in yourself. Purnatvam we say. You are already a Purna Purushaha. You are a complete person. But you don't know that fact. And you have to discover your own fullness, completeness. And for that only this entire lifestyle is designed. And since you are already a complete person, this lifestyle and culture is only going to help you to discover that truth. So discovery of the truth, self-discovery is the goal. And this great vision is what everybody wants, because you are all the time struggling in your life for what? To fulfill your wants. So you think you are a wanting person. That is what is driving all your struggles, your effort, your activities, your day-to-day life. But what the Veda says is that you are already what you want to be. You are already complete. You do not lack anything. You are not really a wanting person. So that you can be content with yourself. So, since you are already what you want to be, Veda is only giving you a lifestyle so that you can discover this truth about yourself. So you do not have this sense of inadequacy. Otherwise, what happens? Everybody is not acceptable to oneself. That is our problem. Our fundamental problem is one of self non-acceptance, not being content with oneself, feeling of inadequacy, because you may accomplish so many things. Many great people are there. In spite of all their accomplishments, talent, skill, they still have a feeling of inadequacy. So that inadequacy is there because one has not understood that one is already adequate. So everybody is really seeking this adequacy, contentment in oneself. You have to discover that. And to discover that, you have to have a certain maturity, emotional maturity. So that is the growth which the Vedic lifestyle is trying to give you. You live a life of duty, then you will discover, you will grow in the process and discover this truth. So that is what we say, maturity or growth is only for this purpose. So growth is not just physical alone in our vision. Everybody physically will become an adult if you age. But emotionally, if you are still a child, then that is a problem. Child means what? I want because I like it, or I don't want because I don't dislike, or I dislike it. I don't care about anything else. That is what we say immature, correct? Children can be there like that initially. But as an adult, you should be able to do whatever is to be done in spite of your likes and dislikes. Then you are mature. And if you have the freedom to do what is right, then you are successful. In fact, you are free to do what is right. That freedom, if you have discovered in yourself, that leisure, then you are really a successful person. That is what we are trying to give it to you. So this inner growth is very important. And to attain that inner growth, this emotional growth, you have to do your duties, because this inner immaturity is because one wants to fulfill one's likes or dislikes at all cost. That is the childish behavior. But that is not possible. If you, even as an adult, if you are like that, you are going to create a lot of conflict for yourself and others. You will do things because of which you will have guilt and fear. That will be only the results if you go along only with your likes and dislikes. If you are ready to do adharma, to fulfill your likes and dislikes, then that desire, those likes and dislikes become greed. They can become greed very easily. And also, if your likes and dislikes are very important for you, you think only by fulfilling them you can be happy. And if you see somebody else having that, whatever you desire, then you will also have jealousy. Like this, all these different, in fact, these are all called enemies of oneself. Bhagavan says in Bhagavad Gita. Shad Ripuana, 6 enemies are talked about in the Shastra. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, like that. So desiring means binding desires. Desire as a privilege is not a problem. Binding desires are a problem. And if your desire is not fulfilled, it leads to pain and anger. Anger is nothing but a symptom of pain only. So kama unfulfilled can lead to krodha, anger. Then also, let us say, even if your desire is fulfilled, it becomes pride. arrogance. So mada, matsarya. Matsarya means jealousy. Okay, if your desires are not fulfilled and somebody else is having whatever you want, then jealousy is there. So kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. Lobha and moha also are there. Lobha means what? Greed. If you are ready to do adharma to fulfill your desires, it becomes greed. And moha is delusion, not clear about what is right or wrong, what is to be done. Only having an idea that I want this or I don't want this, like that. You cannot live your life on that basis. So, the Veda teaches you a lifestyle and a value structure which will help you to grow so that you can discover that you are already what you want to be, that you are the whole complete person. You do not lack anything and you don't have to have all these binding desires, and because of that pain, anger, jealousy, greed, all these things we can be free of. And to be free of all these things, the main thing is what? You have to do your duty. The teaching is only doing duty. So what is maturity according to us? If you are free enough to do your duties, that is the mark of maturity according to us. So to be free enough to do one's duty, again, it means that you have to have a certain attitude, certain understanding, knowledge. And this knowledge, again, it need not be only restricted to India or our culture or anything. It's not confined to a particular culture or time or nation or geography. These things are all common to everybody. That is why many people from many countries are also now attracted by Sanatana Dharma. They want to learn because they are tired of dogmatic systems which are only blindly asking you to believe in some unverifiable, illogical also. Even every belief is unverifiable, that is fine, but the belief itself is not believable. Illogical things they ask you to believe, and dogmatically they try to enforce that. People are tired of that, so they are looking for these teachings, knowledge, and this knowledge is common, it's universal. So if you want to know something, you have to prepare yourself for that. All knowledge has certain prerequisites. If you want to know calculus, you have to know algebra. If you want to know advanced physics, you have to know certain mathematics. Like that, you have to prepare yourself. And in this case, you want to know yourself as the complete whole person. So what you want to know is really what you want in life. What you want to in life is to be not wanting anymore, really, not lacking anything. And that knowledge about oneself is totally different. It is unlike any other knowledge, because all other knowledge we are only learning about objects in your school, in your college, in any scientific pursuit. What one is knowing is something other than oneself. We take ourselves for granted, but the Veda wants to know know you. In fact, you have to know yourself. It wants you to know your true nature as the one who is already complete, total, full, and that knowledge requires a certain unique preparedness, and Veda is giving you a lifestyle of duties to prepare yourself to gain this knowledge. This knowledge you have to gain here and now, not going somewhere to some Swarga or heaven and all that. Our culture and our vision is not some tourism promotion. Understand that we are not promoting a tourism to heaven. We are talking about self discovery here and now, and for that certain emotional growth and a lifestyle and a plan for growing, for acquiring this emotional growth, and be prepared to discover oneself. So that is the overall idea. So in this, first we have to appreciate what we know as Samanya Dharma. So what is Samanya Dharma? Samanya Dharma is universal values. Since I am born with a certain faculty of choice, that makes me a unique living being. And as a human being, I have free will and I can use or abuse or disuse this faculty of choice. In fact, our whole life is nothing but choice. In fact, that is why most of our prayers to Bhagavan are also that you help me to make the right choice. That is the prayer. Even the Gayatri mantra, one is supposed to do japa every day, is really a prayer saying that you know, impel my intellect, my mind, so that I can make the right choices. So abuse or disuse of this faculty is not an option. We have to be able to make the right choice. I have to use my freedom, my free will properly. And in fact, I don't have any choice with reference to making choices. So I have to choose. In that, there is no choice. Everything is a choice in life. Right from the day I am born, of course, many things are chosen for me by my parents. But once I become an adult, I have to choose so many things. And how do I make my choices? It has to be based on a universal matrix of values. And then that whatever I have to do also, again, it has to be based on those values. So value based duties also I have. Those are what we call as Samanya Dharma. And the Samanya Dharma is instinctively known to everybody. It is inborn and understood with the help of a certain common sense. This is what we say, common sense. Common sense values are there with everybody. We need not really go and learn from somebody else. That is why ignorance is not a defense. Everybody knows what is right and what is wrong. In spite of that, people do wrong things. Okay. So that is the thing. So universal values are commonly sensed, and everybody knows that, because how this is what we say golden rule also. Everybody knows that I don't want to get hurt. And also common sense is there that others also do not want to get hurt. That also I know. Therefore what? Not hurting, ahimsa becomes a universal value. Similarly, I don't want to lie. In fact, I don't want to be lied to. I don't want others to lie to me. And others also want the same thing, correct? They don't want to be deceived by me, or they don't want to hear lies from me. Therefore, truthfulness also becomes a universal value. Like that, universal values are based on what you want from others and what they want from you. There is a certain intersection in that. And based on that, universal values are understood by everybody. So I don't want to be an object of hatred or anger or jealousy for others. Similarly, they also want. So everybody wants the others to be sharing, loving, friendly. In fact, everybody is very clear about how others should behave towards themselves. But there is a problem when it comes to the expectations of others with reference to you, in fact. So this is where certain maturity is required, and we have to understand that. So we'll continue this inquiry into values and duties tomorrow. In the meantime, let us see some questions here. Okay, there is one question here. Guruji, even if I accept myself and accept my failures, others will still consider me one, even if I don't think so. Others will make me think that I am a failure. Correct. Others always have something to say about you. But at some point in time, once you have self growth, you don't have to depend on others' validation about you. They have the freedom to think whatever they want to think. That need not really affect you. You are not dependent on what others think about you. In fact, the most important thing is what you think about yourself. That alone really matters. And if you have clarity with reference to that, all others you can easily handle. The world cannot really trouble you. They have the freedom to think whatever they want. You don't have to worry about it. Even Krishna was not free from that, understand? Bhagavan Krishna had to face abuse from Shishupala. Then Krishna said, I will give you 100 chances. Up to 100, Bhagavan kept patient. Then at 101, he also had to react because he is a Kshatriya. He has a certain dharma. He cannot allow somebody to abuse like that. So you can take action, you can take certain steps with reference to others who are not very, let us say, conducive towards yourself. That is okay. Okay, how do you recommend parents motivate their children to work hard? Okay, what do you recommend parents say instead of practice math every day, aim to get 100 or aim to get into so and so college, etc.? Correct. See, essentially, learning, what I can tell about my own experiences, memorizing is not just learning. Most of our school education is only rote learning, unfortunately. And mark oriented means this rote learning becomes the only thing which is important. So I never got first rank ever in my school. That is because I never wrote anything from the textbook, but I wrote whatever I understood from the class. So if they are able to understand something and express it in their own words, that is anyway going to help them later on. That is what we really want. Of course, rote learning has its own certain benefits. We should not give it up also. Along with that, one has to really understand and then be able to express ideas oneself. That is very important. In the process, even if they get some less mark and all that, you should encourage them to be like that only. In fact, my parents encouraged me like that. So that is something which I really appreciate now. That's a great thing to have. So it all depends on how you encourage your children. See, when children are young, they need a lot of validation, love, acceptance. So you have, that is why in Tamil we say Sirati Parati. That your appreciation is most important for children because they look upon you as infallible. Parents are everything for children, and even one word which you say can create a lot of emotional disturbance and still keep troubling them even once they become adult. Also, childhood problems do not just vanish. That is the greatest problem, in fact, for many people. So how you encourage, how you motivate, and it has to be genuine, correct? Because everybody, they don't go just by words, understand that. We all only go by body language, how you say things. So if you are genuinely encouraging and motivating, they will get it actually. Okay, if I do my duty towards another person, they get their rights, and when they do their duty, I get my rights. But if I do my duty correctly, but the other person doesn't, I won't get my rights, and what will be my motivation to do my duty towards that person? Correct. So this is where, so this is where we have to take some action. Of course, in such cases, you may not be able to avoid that person if that person is closely related. But then you have to still accept it. That is where we have to accept. At some point in time, you have to accept your life as given. This is what is given. Of course, Accepting what is given does not mean you should not take any action. You can still try to correct that person. You can take some action, but without getting disheartened or complaining attitude and all that. If you are able to accept it as that is what is given, that is also part of your karma unfolding, correct? At the end of the day, you have to be able to accept what is and then take some action based on that, and then that itself is success for you. You are doing your duty, correct? Your success is on that. It is not dependent on what others are doing. So that is most important. How to control pride? How to control pride means the acceptance or the appreciation that you are not really a creator of anything. Understand that. Even ABCD you have to be taught. Language you have to be taught. Everything you are standing on the shoulder of others always. If you know that you are mutually depending, everybody is depending on something else. If you understand the interdependence of things and what are all the things which are given to you, how can you have any pride? Everything is a glory of Ishvara. In fact, Bhagavan there is a Vibhuti Yoga chapter itself is there in Bhagavad Gita, where Bhagavan is only talking about all glories are Ishvara's glory. In fact, if you are able to understand that vision, there cannot be any pride. In fact, where is any pride? So it has to be, pride is there. In fact, I think because of certain inferiority complex. You want to somehow feel big, but deep down you think that you are small. So you want to feel big. So pride comes from there really. But if you appreciate that everything is Ishvara's manifestation, and you are again, you are an enjoyer of whatever is given to you, not only by Bhagavan, even relatively speaking in your life, everything is given to you. Based on that only you are somebody. So you cannot have pride if that is your attitude. Okay, so I think those are the questions today. We'll continue tomorrow, and then we'll go into actual prayers, daily basis, what prayers you can do, all that also we'll see. So we have 3 more classes. I think mostly topic wise we have covered everything. We'll also try to give you some practices which you can do on a day-to-day basis, so that you can have a certain disciplined life. We'll look into that. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.